Welcome to the Sample Chapter Podcast, the show where authors read a sample chapter from one of their books. Here's your host, Jason A. Meiske.
Hello, Sample Chapter listeners, and welcome to episode 301 of the show. Hey, I just wanted to take a quick moment and update everyone real fast. I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of a scam going around. Yeah, after 300 episodes, people are now using the show name and my name as a scam to reach out to people. So I want to make sure that you're aware that if you get an email from me and it's not from the Sample Chapter Podcast at Gmail specifically, then it is not from me. You can reach out to me at the show. Just go to the show website, samplechapterpodcast.com, and you can see there where to contact, or in the show notes. I have my direct email there. If it's any other email, it's not me. And one thing's for sure, I will never ask for money to be a guest on the show. So beware of those scammers. I appreciate those of you who've been reaching out and letting me know. I guess there's quite a few out there. But just, be safe, everyone. Meanwhile, this week's guest, Jason Kilpatrick, you're in for a real treat. We had a great conversation and covered lots of stuff about his LitRPG book, World Evolution Online. Apocalypse is the first book in that series that's already out and available, and you're going to hear a sample chapter of that next week. But we were discussing things like his background in writing and how his D&D writing came in handy, bringing D&D characters to life in fiction, building a long series and what went into that for him, bringing in lots of pop culture references throughout the story, the reluctant hero, and he talked about his upcoming book signing on May 30th. So you got time to go and catch him. You want to head to his website, which is now available. He mentions it in the show as far as a way to reach out and follow him. But at that moment, it wasn't ready yet. The website is available now. So that link will be in the show notes. But hey, what am I doing? Let's go ahead and hop on over to that interview with Jason Kilpatrick. Hello, Sample Chapter listeners. Welcome back. Hey, this week I'm very, very excited to kick off. After 300 episodes, we're bringing up the rise of Jason. Yeah, that's right. It's Jason Kilpatrick. Jason was born and raised in Louisiana with great food and great people. Growing up, stories through Saturday morning cartoons and movies helped shape his imagination for storytelling. A lifelong fan of fantasy and science fiction, he's an avid gamer, storyteller, and dungeon master for many of D&D games. His goal is to have great stories to life where human emotions, humor, and realism meet the unending possibilities of fantasy and fiction. When he's not writing or gaming, he spends time with his wife, 2 kids, grandkids, and their many animals. His first book, World Evolution Online, is a large multi-book series covering the life and decisions of Mitch and his family and friends, with book 2 currently in development. Meanwhile, we're going to hear all about that book 1 and then the whole series from Jason starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the show, Jason Kilpatrick. Hey, Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. I'm just loving it. It's always fun to get to, I know I can get your name right, so we're good there.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and you have a great name, by the way. I love Jason.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Jason is pretty unique and wonderful, I think. So
yeah, no one ever uses it. Never.
Well, it's funny. We were discussing that before about the rise of Jason, how there a few years ago it seemed like Jason was a hero everywhere. I just kept showing my wife, like, see, I'm a hero. It's everywhere.
Oh, I know. When I was creating the book, I had to go with someone else. I was like, okay, I think Mitch is a good name.
I did the same thing. I went with I kept thinking about maybe putting myself into the book, but eventually I was like, no, I'll go with Gene. There we go. That'll be a good 80s name for my main character.
Can't go wrong.
So let's just kind of start. What was your background with writing? Have you always been interested in it? I know your D&D must come into play here a little bit.
Yeah, I've been a D&D dungeon master for decades, and I've played those types of games and role-playing scenarios for basically all my life, ever since I was a little kid. And in college I was an English minor, up until, I changed majors. And so, but it was focused more on creative writing. I love telling stories. And, through all the years and especially the campaigns with Dungeons and Dragons, it really kind of opened up that spectrum in my mind as far as, I really want to tell a story. And from a personal perspective, lit RPG books and the heavy deep fiction like that are some of my favorites to listen to. Between that, like the Star Wars realms and stuff like that.
Mm.
So, and when I finally decided to write a book and finally got off the chair per se to say, you know what, I'm really going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Lit RPG was what I had been listening to for years, and it really made sense for that to be my first real release.
I wondered about that because I know, like, for myself, I kind of struggled with, like, I wanted for years, like for much of my adult life, and looking back, I realized, oh, I'd always aspired to be a writer, but I just never knew what I was going to write. I had a wide variety of things I would jump into, and oh, it was, I write a story that's similar to this movie or similar to that book or something made up completely crazy, but I didn't know how to end
Oh
it.
yeah. Well, and and listening to all the lit RPG stories that come across, it's like, I can do this and I can tell a story that I haven't really seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I started putting the mechanics together for what I wanted, for one, it was a lot of learning experiences, having to go in and create character sheets for every character that's in
Mm.
there, which in book one, there's over 90.
Oh
So
my gosh.
going in and creating stat sheets and classes, races, how do I want them to evolve? Just everything with those perspectives and the in-depth research that's involved, it really put my D&D background to work.
Mm.
And, and kind of putting the D&D stories that I'd done as a kid and really just enjoying making people laugh and think and put themselves in the shoes of the protagonist or the villain or, whoever that I'm talking about within a story, to really put themselves in their shoes to see what the decisions are and just move them. And
Yeah.
so I've really always enjoyed it. And when I really wanted to tell a story, it just seemed like the lit RPG forum was the way to go, because characters can be really anything you want in a world you develop. And
Mm.
as an author, you understand that too. But I
Sure.
think that even though those types of characters with stats and levels and evolutions or whatever it is, there's still a humongous amount of fluidity with it. And you can
Mm-hmm.
shape it however you want. Because at the end of the day, people ask me questions. I'm like, you know what? It's my world. I can do whatever I choose as long as
Mm-hmm.
it fits the narrative and the story I'm trying to tell. Do whatever you want.
Right. So what was that transference for you? Like, what was it like moving over from writing D&D to now you're giving life to the characters that previously it was, all right, where do you want to go? Do you want to go left, right? Do you want to open this box? But now it's you're the one making all the decisions. Was that tough for you? Was it exciting, or what was that like?
All of the above, to be honest with you. It was, well, because, when you're making a D&D campaign, you try to set it for, okay, how many campaigns do you expect it to be? Is it a 12-week campaign? Is it a 4-week campaign? Is it just a one night? And
Mm,
so you're kind of limited with the structure. You have one set goal that you want to achieve. And yes, your characters that from the people that are playing with you, they can kind of take it wherever, but you still want to steer them a certain way.
mm-hmm,
While with this, I'm thinking, as we talked earlier, it's at least a 9 book series,
mm,
which encompasses a much greater scope. And so I think one of the benefits with the character development and the story arcs is I used a lot of personalities from people that I had played with
oh
over
yeah.
the years. And so I utilized kind of what they had done, why they did it, good, good outcomes or bad,
Hmm.
and so how their development went is not only a character, but just them as a person kind of going through. And so, and I had long talks with a lot of friends of mine that I had included as far as that were characters in this book,
Yeah.
and it will continue to be characters because, I wanted to pick their brains on lots of avenues as far as, okay, I pulled out their old character sheets. I was like, okay, this is what your character was. This is how I see them going. What do you think? And so I let them help shape some of their characters as well. So
Yeah.
I think just allowing their personalities within their characters to kind of shape what's going forward for the most part.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's cool because it's all that information is just more uh what's the word for it? The phrasing, it's all grift for the mill. It's all
Yes.
just information that's readily there, and that's awesome that you have such a wealth of information on hand to refer back to. Hey, I remember in this campaign we did this. I think that's going to work for this scene, or maybe even for a whole book on there. That's cool to get to use as a reference. But then of course writing the book is so much more, because now it's their what's motivating them, their feelings, and so on, and going forward from there. So that's cool to have that. The bones of the story are kind of there to help flesh it out.
Yeah, and of course, some of the characters were good, some were morally gray, some were kind of just chaotic in nature. And so how they all fit into the grand story arc
Hmm.
is what's going to be compelling, because there will be conflicts within the book just based on their, decisions or personalities within their characters. But that's the joy of it. That's how
Yeah.
you shape a story is, how does that flow? How does it create an emotional response? And then not only that, but where's the resolution or lack of,
Hmm.
how does the story progress? And
Yeah.
so, as we were talking about just a minute ago, it's a much broader scope. The first book's 105,000 words, so that's a lot longer than a normal D&D campaign would be. So it's having to really think and jot stuff down and kick it around and throw it out and maybe bring it back. It's a lot of mind-boggling test and theory.
Yeah. And everybody listening, I want to make sure to mention here, we're talking about his first book, Apocalypse. It's book one of the World Evolution Online. And I'm interested, like, how long did it take you to kind of put that first book together? And what was the toughest part about that?
So I knew when I wanted to write the book series that I had. The first part was to kind of put, okay, I want point A to point B to be for the first book. What is a high point with that I can end on the first book on a, where it makes sense. And then, I did that for all the series.
Hmm.
Okay, so book two picks up here and should end right here. And then when I got done with that, I went back to book one and then I started reverse engineering, you know, okay, so it ends here, but what are some key points that I want to hit? And for every chapter, there are things I wanted to touch on. The hardest part was the complexity of all the characters,
Oh.
creating them independently and individually with whether it's an archer or a knight, or a warrior, a monk, whatever. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Hmm.
What classes, what species, what, skills, kind of going through that research piece of putting it all together. And then once I had that complete novel of material, it's like, okay, how does that flow and make sense into a book? And that's just the characters. That's not even the storyline.
Right.
But when the storyline in general, what the toughest part was probably the introduction into the system itself,
Mm.
because everyone who listens to these books, they want to kind of get into the game or get into the system and kind of see how it evolves and goes and flows, but you got to get there first. And
Right.
so, that was the piece. I'm like, okay, how do I set the scene for what's about to happen? Once you're in the game, the flow's a lot easier because, whether it's quest or scenarios in the game that happen and you have to react accordingly and the development of each character. But what's the reason that you're going in there to begin with? And that took a lot of thought to say, okay, these are the main points I want to hit, but how does that flow appropriately?
Hmm. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, when I was writing my Bandit series, I mean, I started at the beginning because it just seemed like it was the right point to go, and I did about 6 chapters, almost 6 chapters, before beginning the actual meat of what book one is. And so it was almost like, okay, so book one, part one, and then part two, here's what the rest of the series will be about. And I kept looking at that and I'm realizing like I wanted the book to be more about like what's happening in part two. And I realized all this background information is mostly just for me. And I've been using that information to kind of fulfill his character and sprinkle things in over the first three books. But now the good thing is, since I pulled it aside, now I'm going back and I'm filling it in, and I'm going to be able to use that for the prequel book that I'm working
Yeah.
on.
And I'm like
How it
you,
all
you
took
know, the
place.
first several chapters are just getting into it,
Yeah.
you know, and then once you're in the game, that's when, you know, things start to make sense from a gamer perspective or just someone who likes those types of books.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the setup is, you know, takes quite a few chapters to just set the scene and get through everything and to where, you know, the progression can actually begin.
Sure. Yeah, because like your average reader may not be aware of
No.
what to expect in a lit RPG. You know, somebody who's aware of it, they know what's going on, and they're digging all this information, and they're going to be getting that throughout the book. But yeah, your average reader, you want to make sure you're grabbing them with, hey, here's the basis. Here's some action or something, and then here's some more information, and go from there. But grab their attention.
Yeah, and that was another challenging part is because I tried to tell or explain the perspective of the system and how everything works from the point of view of someone who has never played any sort of game.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about the story, it starts off with, you know, anyone who's read the back cover, you know, it starts off with a pandemic. So you've got the entire population of the world going into this system.
Mm-hmm.
95% of them have never picked up a game before. So they're
Right.
not going to understand anything. So I had
Mm-hmm.
to try to explain it to, I mean, essentially like a 3-year old to
Yeah.
go in and explain what everything is. Because as a gamer or someone who's familiar with that world, I understand it. I'm ready to jump in and go.
Yeah.
But to try to back up and say, okay, I need to explain it to people, not necessarily the reader, but as people within the system itself who are going into it, they need to understand what they're walking into to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
And so that was another challenge.
Yeah, and from what I was reading on the back, it gave me this sense of like gamer meets the Matrix sort of thing,
Very
sort of
funny you
vibe
say
to
that.
it. But
It does
yeah,
have some Matrix. It's got some James Bond. It's got some World of Warcraft. It's got a little bit of Ender's Game. You know, it's got Dungeons and Dragons. It's got a little bit of flavor from every one of those.
outstanding. All right, well, go ahead and give listeners a little taste of what is World Evolution Online.
Yeah. So what you can expect with World Revolution Online is, in a small synopsis, is the world's gone into a nightmare mode, and so to save humanity, everybody uh, has to go or decides to go into this online simulation to where their minds are uploaded to basically save humanity while the world kind of repairs itself. And while they're in there, you know, Mitch finds out or is given the opportunity to save humanity. And he really has no desire to do that. He's just
Hmm.
your normal average Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
he's your father, he's you know, a worker, he's, you know, just a normal person. And he just happens to do very well on what's, you know, essentially an algorithm that a developer is trying to pass through to kind of find someone to help him because, you know, something's not right with the simulation.
Hmm.
There's something's wrong, and
Yeah.
but they don't know what it is, and the developer can't access it because he doesn't want to tip his hand that he's trying to figure out what's going on. So he needs Mitch's help, and
Mm-hmm.
Mitch is on the inside, and the developer is on the outside, and together he needs Mitch to work as a team to really try to uncover, you know, what are the secrets and why does it even have secrets? And so with that, you know, Mitch and his ragtag family of friends and crew members try to go and figure out what's going on. And as the series progresses, you're going to learn more and more about what is really happening and what the serious repercussions are and what it could mean for humanity as a whole. Nobody knows. And that's the point of kind of investigating and searching and trying to find all the answers to try to save humanity. And the thing with Mitch is, he's the type of person that really wants to do the right thing, but more so protect his family and friends. That's his main goal, is to protect the people he cares about. And at what lengths will he have to go to do that? And
Hmm.
so you have your morally gray issues. It's like, at what point is enough enough, and what lines will or will not be crossed to protect humanity and honestly from itself?
Hmm.
Because, when I try to explain to people what this book is about, it's like, humanity doesn't understand what's going on. They're oblivious. And if you don't understand something, the normal society action is to fear it. And when you fear it, what do you try to do? You try to
Hmm.
get rid of it or
Right.
exterminate it. And so that's not something that Mitch is going to allow,
Hmm.
because he's there to protect humanity, not allow it to destroy itself. And so what decisions will need to be taken, what actions, and at what point does it cost him? And what does the price seem to be?
Hmm. All right. So you got some deep questions in there that Mitch gets to wrestle with throughout. So this is
A lot
exciting.
of internal conflict.
Very cool. So are you a morning writer, an evening writer, or just kind of peppered in whenever you have time?
Pepper it in. I probably
Yeah.
mostly write at night,
Hmm.
just because I work during the day. So when I'm able to get some time away from the wife, I try to get in there and write a little bit. But I will take notes all through the day. So
Oh
if
yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm doing work, and then something hits me in the back of the head, I'm like, oh, okay, no, 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 I need to write this down. And so I'll jot it down for later to kind of bring back the memory.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you like to write in silence or in to some music or anything?
Silence.
Okay.
Yeah, I typically do better with silence.
Gotcha.
I
All
found that
right.
out the first night I was writing. She wanted to play a little music, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work too well. So I was like, honey, please.
Yeah, my early days of writing, I used to not be able to have. I learned the hard way. I couldn't do music because I would tend to write some of the lyrics into my something I was writing, and I was like, I don't even understand how I did that. But over time, I got a little bit where I was like, okay, I'm more into what I'm writing.
Yeah.
Now I tend to like to have. I'll kind of fashion the music to either something that's inspiring me, like my first book. I use the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack just to get that
All
deep
right.
drums and really drive home the hauntingness of the story that I was writing. And it's a paranormal story, but that was resonating with me. And then I had some other stories. I wanted to have some 70s easy listening music. So some little river band, other stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I could throw some Bee Gees in there. Next thing you know,
Yeah,
I'll be singing
exactly.
tragedy, and I got Saturday Night Fever going in the book, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course with the bandit, it's all classic 80s. I'm just jamming
oh yeah.
and then it's just the decision of like, oh, all right, yeah, that song's going in, or nope, it's not. Or of
Well, I'm
course,
a huge Journey and Queen fan, so I get it.
fantastic. Well, all right, I've got a question for you here, something off topic a little bit. So you'd say, would you rather? So, Jason, would you rather kill off your all-time favorite character of your own story, or completely rewrite the worst book you've ever read?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one. Uh, Honestly, I would probably. I have no problems killing off a main character, but I would probably. Yeah, I'd probably kill off the main character.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
I mean, because
That's great.
well, it's like, everyone's going to have a bad book out there, and, you can learn from it. And
Yeah,
granted, I'm not against rewriting anything, but I think if you can kill off a favorite character or something like that and make it flow well, I think it makes your stories more memorable and
there
stand
you
out.
go. Yeah, and that's a very good point. Yeah, how many stories have tricked us from the beginning where we think somebody's a main character and all of a sudden they're dead, and you're just left with whoa. So
Oh yeah, it's like that movie Tin Cup. No one's going to remember the 5 water shots or whatever, but they're going to remember that shot from 230 yards out.
yes, exactly. Fantastic. Well, where can people find and follow you, Jason?
So I do have an Amazon author page. Uh, Jason Kilpatrick, through Amazon is there, the author page. Also, Facebook, Jason Kilpatrick author. A website should be up within the next week, so I can send that to you as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so Facebook is and Amazon are the two main ways to kind of follow me. As we were kind of talking earlier, along with this, there's a book signing with Barnes and Noble in the Germantown area in the Memphis location or Memphis Metro on the 30th at 3:30 p.m. I'll be there in person signing books. And so, but yeah, no, those are the two main things.
And there was somebody you wanted to shout out as well. You were talking
Oh
about
yeah.
earlier?
So Audible is currently in production with an expected release date of June 15th. And I told the narrator who I have found to be extremely delightful so far. He's doing great work from everything I have listened to with the chapters. His name is Josh Putnam. And so I told him I wanted to give him a shout out over here because I think he's done great work.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's great. All right, everybody. Well, as always, this is not the end. We've come to the end of the interview with Jason, but never fret. We're going to be back next week with Jason Kilpatrick reading a sample from World Evolution Online, Book 1, Apocalypse. Until then, take care, everybody.